In this video, we are going to take you through quick steps and easy ways to ace your US visa interviews. We are going to talk about the likely questions you are going to get and how to navigate those questions to ensure the consular approve your US visa. Follow us.
Let's go.
Yeah, so welcome to the show.
Just give up a brief context into this topic that you've started. And that's when you're there for your visa interview and you get a question, first you need to think in your head, what are they trying to get out of this question? I think that's what sets you up for success in the US student visa interview. You need to first understand, why are they asking me this question? Just to jump right into it and start saying whatever comes to your mind. If you're able to figure out why they're asking you those questions, you might be answering them better than just getting the question and giving them the answer, thinking that's what they want to hear. But so I'll let you, talk about
Lamid,
some of this question.
for that opener. It's also good to also say mostly the consular wants to establish the fact that you have a tie back to your own country. They also want to be sure you have a genuine reason for going abroad. You really have an admission, right? So you won't be surprised to get questions about your student program, maybe your admission or the school you are going to or the city you are going to, or questions about your family or your sponsors. So when you get these questions, like Ahmed said, you need to first of all understand why those questions. That will help you to put together the right answer for that particular question. So can we go to the first?
And one thing also is that this goes without saying that when people are there for the interview, they need to be prepared. You have all your documents, even though we are not going to cover anything around documents or how to apply, but you need to get all your documents ready, have all the requirements set, and don't be nervous. And when you are there someone told me a particular story, which is very interesting, and I need to share this before we even get right into asking those questions. So I don't know, this could just be like a coincidence, but it can't really be, because so before I went for my visa interview, I was talking to several people, asking them questions on, okay, how did you approach it? What kind of questions should I expect? And somebody told me that when you're there, be calm. And if you're there with a family member, that maybe you're going there as a family, you should watch what you discuss while within the premises. Said that when she got there, she sat down and brought out a novel and she was just reading it. And when she got to the interview booth, they were asking that, oh, you like to read? And I was wondering, how did they know I was reading? And that was even outside before even getting into the interview arena. So that was still outside on the just reading, calm and all that. Oh, what were you reading? This, that. So maybe for some reason they're observing you, how calm you are, how nervous you are. So those are the things that probably already play into the kind of questions they will ask you. I don't have any proof for this I don't have anything to back this up, but it could be true. Maybe you're there with someone, you're already whispering, if they ask you this is what you say. So it looks like you're skimming something, right? So when you get there, whatever you say, it doesn't really matter. And maybe they already made up their mind. I don't know whether that's how it works, but you still need to be careful around that.
Yeah. That's a good call out, Amir. And as we were just saying, that one other thing that came to my mind was also making sure that the answers you are providing are not different from what you already have in your DS-160 form.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you outsource those filling of forms and all of that. And so while you are taking questions, you are looking for answers, don't forget that the officer is looking at, you see most likely they are busy looking at the screen. They are looking at the information that you've already provided on those forms.
Yeah.
So many times you have to be well acquainted with the information on your DS-160 so that you are not saying something that's entirely different, right? So that's really also very important.
And don't listen to anybody that tells you oh, you don't need to go with this document or that document, they didn't ask me. Just go with as much documentation as you have. When I was going, when I got there, they asked me, the only document they asked me was outside of my I-20. And outside of my I-20, I think the other document that was asked was the service fee payment receipt. I just printed the form, I think the acknowledgement form or something. I can't remember what they call it now. But I still went there with the receipt that I downloaded payment, because when I got there, it hadn't reflected. So the guy was like, have you paid the service fee? And I said, yes. Can't really see any confirmation there. So I had to give the receipt. So he took the original copy of the receipt for me. When they decided to make a copy, and I had it back to me. If I didn't have it there, that could have been the deal breaker for me. So just go with any document that you have if you think it supports it. If they don't get, it's better to have it and not use it than to now need it and you don't have it, right? So just go along with all your documents. So that could have ruined the whole interview for me.
Absolutely. And again, that's cool. I mean, going with as much document as possible, like reduce your nervousness, right? Like you know you are all prepared, you have everything. And talking about nervousness, like there's this thing, a lot of people tend to overcompensate by greeting. Like you want to like keep talking. Like you get to the consul and you are
your family wearing the same attires, like
all right. Just want to like keep it simple, like keep it straight, like unnecessary greetings like hello, hi, it's okay. But again, I think like over time you like get to understand some of these things. So I think we should just go straight into the question. One of the questions I have here is so I'll just roll out the questions I made you just like talk about them, like try to answer them.
Sure. Let's go.
First one is okay, why are you traveling to the US?
So I'm going to give a detailed explanation on how to answer that question. But one thing I also want to point out here is don't say more than you need to say also when you're answering those questions. Don't give too much details. Just answer the question. Provide answers that are relevant to answering that question. Don't just go into unnecessary, because you might just get yourself into trouble by saying things that you shouldn't have said. So I'll get into the question like, why are you traveling into the US? I mean, you're applying for a student visa, so you're going to study XYZ program. Oh yeah, I'm going to the United States to start my MBA or my MSc degree in computer engineering at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. So, I mean, it's as simple as that. That's the reason you're going to the United States. So you don't need to give more details than necessary. In fact, like a lot of times when you're already answering the question, once you already said what they wanted to hear, they'll just interrupt you and ask you the next question.
I was going to say
they will interrupt you and just ask you the next question. So that's
a good one. I mean, I think most times from my own experience, so like there's a tendency to, like I was saying initially, the tendency to want to talk more. Naturally, we feel like the more answers we provide, like the better for us.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not so. There's a tendency to like extend what you just said and start saying the reason why I'm going to that school, or 2 years ago I did this degree in Nigeria, now I want to go to the US to do this computer engineering, stuff like that. And before you know it, you get into, you just...
I mean, they will ask you, right, as follow-up questions. They want to know why the US, why that course, why that school. They will ask you if they want to know why you've chosen. So the reason is why you're going to the US. It's as basic as going to the US, my undergraduate degree, studying whatever course it is, and just leave it at that. And they will likely interrupt you. And once they interrupt you, they already heard what they want. Don't shoot yourself in the foot by trying to keep talking, trying to get your point across. They already got what they wanted. So just shut up and let them ask the next question.
So the next question, again in no particular order, is so have you been to the US before? And if not, which other country? What are the countries that you've been to?
I mean, that really got me tensed when I got that question, because I was like, okay, what are they trying to get out of this question? I mean, for me, the answer was no. And I said no. I've never been to any other country, but I've been to Benin Republic, if that counts. That's what I said. Exactly. So the neighboring country, if that counts.
I mean, is it okay in this kind of situation, you're trying to like be smart, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I've not been to any other country apart from that you were born. Like you said, maybe Benin. Is it okay to just kind of like provide justification as to why you've not been to another country, like saying, I actually wanted to travel last year, something happened, or
why? Really, how does that advance your course, like in any way? How does it advance how does it help you in any way, saying you wanted to, Or if you've never been to another country, fine,
Okay.
you've never been to another country. That's right. So, I mean, sometimes you're not even sure why they're asking you that question. Maybe there's somebody with exact name as you that is on record that has been to the US. They just wanted to confirm whether it's you or a different person. I mean, you wouldn't know, right? So it's best to just say, I've never been to any other country if you have never been to any other country. So
Yeah.
there's no reason to lie.
So answering, I mean, not being to any other country does not reduce your chances of getting your visa.
I know so many people that it's their first time going to, like, traveling internationally, and they got their visa the first time.
Okay.
So it doesn't really matter. And I've seen people that have been to, in fact, I've seen people that said, oh, you need to, don't want to use that word yet, do this to your passport, go to a few countries first before you apply to the US visa. I've seen people like that get denied too. So it doesn't really matter whether you've been to, because it's a holistic look. It's not just about one question. One question may not really define the outcome of the interview. Yeah.
Okay. So to the next one, if you get question like, do you have family or friends in the US?
I mean, it depends, right? If you do, I think you have to be honest. Okay. Especially if they have already listed, because when you're filling your, is it the S-160, they ask you all these details, your siblings, even your father, your mother, and their own parents too, if they are still alive. You have to write, you have to give their data, right? So if you have family abroad who had mentioned you as a relative, maybe as a sibling, and you are saying no, you are lying, and they're able to match the data, then I mean, why do they want to trust you? Because you already lied. Every other thing, now they start to question every other thing. So I think it's best to say, if you really have relatives there, yes, you do have relatives there. But I think adding more context that you also have relatives here, especially if let's say I have one sibling in the US, I have two siblings in Nigeria, my parents are in Nigeria. I mean, I would just easily say, oh yeah, my brother is in the United States, does this, does that, but I have two other siblings also in Nigeria. My parents are in Nigeria. I mean, just to let them know that you still have ties back in Nigeria. Just quickly add that, like, oh yeah, I have three siblings, one of them in the US doing this and that, and I have these two other siblings back in Nigeria and my parents. So I don't think you need to lie on.
Okay. Yeah, so let's move to the next phase now. Like, very interesting questions that usually like come together. Like, who will be sponsoring your education in the US?
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of people falter, because you have to be prepared for this question. You have to do your number crunching, do the maths. How much is your tuition? If you are getting a scholarship, you need to come with a scholarship letter, like showing that you have been awarded scholarship. If you're taking a loan, you need to come with the approved loan letter that this loan has been approved. And if you are self-funding, you need to come with bank statement. Or if your parents are sponsoring, you need to come with their bank statement to show that you can fund your education. So when you are coming, the question is loaded and maybe two-faceted. And what you just need to say is, well, okay, this is my tuition is 100,000. So based on the information provided by the school, the living expenses for the 2 years of my study will be additional $100,000. So in total is $200,000 for my school fees. I got 50% tuition, so which means I need to balance 50K. So the 50K will come from student loan already approved by maybe Discover, SoFi, or Empower. And if it's coming from your bank account or your parents' bank account, I'll be paying the balance through my parents' bank account. For the 100K living expenses, I also have the money in my bank account. Or there's a guaranteed job on campus that will pay this stipend every month. So I'll take it. So you just need to make sure you've done the maths, everything adds. For every dollar you are spending there, where will it come from? Because they don't expect you to get there and start doing your work out off campus, right? So you can only do on-campus work at that point. So if the work is coming from campus, it counts. Well, if it's off-campus work, you can't say that because you're already violating the terms of the visa they've not even given you. You're already thinking about how to violate it. So you need to account for every dollar and where the money will come from. And one follow-up question that came for me from my scholarship was, was there any obligation tied to my scholarship? What do I have to do? So if it's a job, for example, that you need to work with a professor, then you'll have to answer that. For me, there was no obligation. I just said it's a merit-based scholarship, and so based on the assessment of your undergrad, your GRE score, and your application as a whole. So I don't have to do anything in return to get that money. So it's so I explained that clearly. So essentially, you need to answer that question. This is how much you're spending on tuition, this is how much you're spending on living expenses, and this is how you're covering all of them. So question that might also come up is for loan. I've heard a few friends that went for the visa interview. For those that are paying through loan, that are taking significant amount of loan to cover their expenses, they ask them, how do you intend to pay back this loan? So it will help to also have done some mathematics and okay, I'm going for an MBA program. Post-graduation, I'll be working in this industry. The average salary for that industry is $200,000 per year. So if I pay back $1,000 out of that monthly, I'll pay back the entire loan in 10 years, which is already approved by so company. So I don't see any problem. And but when you're answering that question, right, the intention is you have to come back to Nigeria. So what you should be saying is the average salary in Nigeria, not outside. Because once you say, $200,000, like the way I said it, it's like, okay, this guy's looking to stay back in the US. That's the intention already.
And I think that's going to take us back to where we started from, right? Like not giving too many information.
Yeah,
right?
Too much. You just need to give the right amount of
the
information.
right, do
But
your
in
math,
this case, you need to explain it. They ask you that follow-up question, like how do you intend to pay back that loan?
Yeah.
So what you need to do is just say, the average salary for this role back in Nigeria or in Africa in general is this amount. So that translates to so amount of dollars. I'm owing this amount of loan. If I'm paying so amount of dollars, which is also in Naira, back every month, that's just like maybe 2% of my monthly salary or 3% of my monthly salary. It's not really a lot, so I can pay back this loan in 10, 15 years, which we already agreed with the loan company and already approved and signed.
Yeah. Based on what you just said now, one thing that just came to my mind, not to put on the spot, is do you think, for students or prospective candidates that are trying to go abroad, come to the US for their schooling, trying to look at scholarship and loan option, do you think that there is a higher chance to get your visa approved if you have a full tuition scholarship thing than having loan? Do you see most people coming from the route of, hey, I have a loan, getting rejected, or it really does not really matter?
So I don't have any empirical method for this, but based on anecdotes from friends and acquaintances, people I know that people who have gone for this interview, I've seen more people got rejection. I've seen more people with loans got rejected, right? And I don't want to tie it to the loan specifically, but I want to say maybe they've not been able to explain how they will pay back that loan.
It's tricky, right? It's tricky.
So because if you're taking 200,000, like the US, those guys at the US consulate or US embassy, they are protecting their country's interest whether they like it or not. So you're taking $200,000, $150,000 from an American company and you don't have a solid plan on how you want to pay it back, especially when you're back in Nigeria. Because what they're thinking is you're coming back to Nigeria. So the plan has to be solid on how to pay back. And sometimes you can't take everything people tell you at face value, right? So you still have to, want to confirm whether they're telling you the entire truth or not. So someone had told me in the past that the visa officer told her that she had all the money. She wanted to use her own money. I worked many years in Nigeria, had all the money to fund the education, only got about 40 or 50% tuition. I wanted to self-fund the rest. And so the lady told her that I'm doing you a favor by denying you something, that this money will best serve you in Nigeria, something like that. I don't know. I was not there, but that was the story that I was told, which could be true or could be, not, I don't want to say a lie, maybe not the true representation of what the person said. And so we've seen people with full scholarship denied. We've seen people without scholarship denied.
Right.
We've seen people with loan denied. We've seen people with loan approved. So you can't really say that they are denying people because of loan. Maybe if you don't do a good job explaining the source of the loan, how you're paying back the loan, what's even the loan amount, right? So, and because you have the I-20, everything is already printed on your I-20. The school will have asked you, like, how do you want to fund this? And everything will be calculated. So you are giving the numbers it has to check out. So if you now start saying numbers that they can't validate on the I-20, it just feels like their job is not to start thinking for you. If anything doesn't add up, don't give them any doubts to any reason to doubt what you're telling them.
Yeah, thanks, Ahmed. So another question that I believe comes like closely related to the question on sponsorship is what your sponsor does for a living, right? And you see this question come mostly like if you're coming for a master's program and undergrad programs, right? People that are sponsored by their parents. You might get a question like, what does your parent do for a living, right? Because they are trying to establish if someone is going to fund you, right? What does that person do? And so in a way, you might need to also prepare like to give a succinct answer, like a very compelling, satisfactory answer without talking so much of the source of that funding. What do you think?
Yeah, you have to talk about what they do and you have to give context into how much they are earning also. Because sometimes you can also give a lot of details when it's necessary to prove your point, right? For example, you're saying, I can't just say, oh, my dad is a medical doctor. So what does that mean, right? You can, my dad owns his own hospital. He's a medical doctor, he's into private practice, has his own hospital, which generates million, 700 million naira monthly. So that gives them the idea, okay, yeah, you have the money. You can say, oh, my mom is a trader. What kind of trader? Yeah, you want to give context like, oh, my mom owns 50 shops in Lagos selling this item. I've seen the books, the income monthly is so. So they know, like, not just a petty trader that can't afford to have that kind of money they are seeing in the bank account or bank statement, right? So you need to give some context to show that, because they have the general idea. See, your parents is a civil servant, and they are seeing 2 billion naira in it. So,
sorry to jump. Another trend I see, I think I have some anecdotes like that too, where you see a candidate that maybe like realistically their parents might not be able to like sponsor the education, right? And this is not to denigrate any job or business or whatever, but we know what the reality is.
What are you saying? My parents couldn't have sponsored my MBA. I'm saying it at the matter, not denigrate anybody. When I was starting, it was around 70, 80 million naira the tuition. So I'm sure that was just tuition. Now the living expenses. No, I'm sure they will have told me like, are you trying to give us high blood pressure? Are you trying to kill us? Can you please we've sent you undergrad and a master's degree in Nigeria. What are you looking for?
To do? So the point I was making is that, so then you see this candidate trying to like move to an uncle or like an auntie somewhere in Nigeria, right? So, and again, the visa officer is trying to look at what is the relationship between your auntie or your distant uncle.
Don't they have their own kids? They'll be looking at that in their head, right?
That's what you get some kind of follow-up questions like, how many kids? Like, does your auntie have kids? Like, where are they? Right? So you're already getting yourself into something you didn't prepare for, right? So this is your aunt that is sponsoring you 40, 50,000 US dollars, has 2-3 kids that are still in high school in Nigeria. So it starts. So again, you just have to make sure, like this question on sponsorship, make sure your number check out, right? How much is your program going to cost you in all, including your living expense? Then check out your scholarship, your loan, who is funding you, your own personal fund, and just tell a complete holistic story. It's safer than way to say, my uncle is my uncle is a politician, or my uncle owns a big company and is going to like sponsor the 60,000. Then you get a question on your uncle to just check Like, how well should you get?
Right, it's important to actually emphasize why your uncle is deciding to sponsor, right? So
Absolutely.
just give you an idea of that why they are. I mean, have they made you that promise? Are they your godfather? Like,
Yeah.
just give them a reason. Like, I mean, can't just out of the blue say they are just giving you that money. There has to be a reason. Oh, our family want to make sure. Like, you have to give a reason. I don't know, but there has to be a good reason. Like, it might
I
not
think
come up or be prepared for it. Yeah.
Yeah, one other thing that I see people do, maybe sometimes it works, is to also talk about a plan how you intend to pay that your uncle back. You know,
I
that
mean,
kind
if
of.
it's a loan, yeah, you can do that. But if it's not a loan, if it's a gift, you can just say, oh, it's a gift from me for maybe where my sister also graduated from. He gave her so amount as a gift for me, taking it in form of this sponsorship. So, like, there has to be a valid reason why they are giving you, because I'm sure these people have seen a lot of maybe falsified documents, or just taking just taking the bank statement for the purpose of the interview, and after that, the money is not really coming to you. Then you start looking for a work a job when you get to the US. You're missing classes, you lose your status,
Become a
you
nuisance.
get back or become a nuisance, and also, I mean, all those things. So your stories have to check out. So there has to be a reason for everything that you are presenting. That's my uncle is sponsoring me because of this reason. So all those, if it's a loan, maybe you want to state it like, it's a loan to me. He has the confidence that I'll be successful and I'll be able to pay him back. So it's as simple as that.
Interesting. Yeah. One more question, or just to discuss more about sponsorship, because I see it's something that really, really very important. It's a question that comes, like, you hardly will not be able to escape it if you are going for student visa interview. Sometimes your workplace in Nigeria, let's say you are working somewhere and they are sponsoring you. I mean, right, might also be a good opportunity, right?
Yeah, you
Because
can also say that.
company, you have I think I did that. My first visa interview. Yeah, you work in a big firm, or maybe you work in a bank. You can get that corporation to just give you like a letter, or maybe like a study leave, or something that takes care of the whole expense, the whole tuition and all of that. Then you can have a payback plan, and that can in a way demonstrate that ties, right? Like, if your
back
company
home,
is sponsoring you and saying you are going for a 2-year master's program, then you can say, okay, I'm coming back to this company to like move up C-suite or move up into a senior manager role. By then I will have had XYZ experience, and that will be useful back for that corporation and for Nigeria, right? So yeah, so telling that story, making sure like everything connects while you are going there, coming back, actually really makes sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
What I mean, there's a question that ties to also this living expenses thing. Is one question that I got was what's the living arrangement? Where are you going to live? So it helped that I already did some research looking for apartments while still here. So when I was given the answer, I mean, it felt real, and that's because it was real. Like, I gave them, so I'm going to, like, my plan currently is to live at so building. It's just 5 minutes to walk to my business school. I only have to walk 5 minutes to my business school, and that's the reason I'm choosing it. And it's owned by the school. It costs so amount per month. And I mean, I already gave him my application. It has been approved, but I've not paid the rent yet. And the guy was like, why? I was like, of course, I have to get this visa first. What if I don't get approved? That's what I said. And the guy just laughed. I was like, he said that makes sense. I was like, what if I don't get approved? So sometimes not showing too much desperation. So if you see people going there with already paid rent, already paid flight, it feels like you're trying to blackmail them into giving you that visa, because now they have to sympathize with, oh, if I deny this person that already paid
a warning on the
I don't do it.
Don't
pay for your flight yet, nothing. So I just said, so it made me like being relaxed, and everything just made it feel like, okay, this guy's not desperate to go. And I demonstrated that when the guy asked me, one of the questions that he also asked was, how many schools did I apply to? I told him, like, I applied to 5 schools or 4 schools. And I was like, so why did you choose this one? And I give, and that was the exact reason. I said, one, when I did the interview, like when I reached out during the admission process to alums, admission officers, they were very helpful. I shared my story. I shared my post-MBA plan. They were all interested in that idea that they kept asking me. Even after the interview, they were still connecting me with other people doing similar things already in their school as alums, like, oh, you need to reach out to this person. So I felt like they were genuinely interested in my success.
Yeah.
That's the reason I chose that school. Then I ended it by, it also made it easier that they gave me full scholarship. So where else will I go if I... So, but beyond the money, those were the other reasons. So I gave the reason why I chose that school. So that's also another question that might come up to you, like, why did you choose this school?
Yeah.
And there was also, why the US? So when they ask you why the US...
I was going to actually... You actually just like...
Yeah, I jumped the gun.
Just picked into my mind. The question I was going to ask, very related to that, is why the US? Why are you not doing that master's program in Nigeria? In fact, you should expect that question, right? So, most people already have a degree, they have a master's, then you're going for
so you're going for a second master's. Yeah.
Master's.
So that's a good question. Yeah. So, it's funny because the person that interviewed before me, I mean, you've been to the Lagos course, like you see people standing behind each other, lining up for the interview. So the person before me had an undergraduate degree in French, and I mean, it's French-related course. I'm going to the US to study French. The guy I saw the confusion on the interviewer's face, like the US for French, why not France? Why not Togo? Why not Benin Republic? Like, the question was like in the US, and the lady was trying to justify, like, yes, because the US is the best, whatever. I mean, all those things will not add up. Like, exactly, will not make sense to them, right? If the reason generally is you really want to learn French, the best place for you will have been a French-speaking country, not go and learn French in the US. That's what it sounded like to them, at least what I could read on the guy's face. Like, and she was denied, right? So I think, why the US? They've heard it before plenty times, a million times, like, oh, the US, right, the best education. I mean, I told him, like, these are my plan, these are my post-MBA goals. The US just the US just happened to be, or the school that gave me admission that aligns with just happened to be in the US. So that's what I say. Like, I researched other schools in terms of hearing back from alums, hearing back from admission officers. Like, the schools in the US just did the best job, and I already feel like I'm even a part of that community already. So, and it just happens to be in the US. And of course, US has a lot of good schools and focused on them, but it's not because you want to give something that is a bit personal to you, not just the generic things they've heard every time. I'll tell you this, my interview lasted for almost 15 minutes. A lot of people would think, like, I saw a lot of interviews that lasted 2 minutes, 3 minutes. At the point, you feel like we're discussing, we're chatting. And when I said, because I kept mentioning my interest, my passion, this project, that project, they were like, can you tell me about this project? You're talking about this project. And I had to give him the details, like, okay, I have these three projects that I'm currently working on. Like, I gave him context, like, this is what I do. And one of them was, and it's still something that I'm working on, but I'm just too slow implementing it right now.
Let me get
I'm still doing it, really. But it's just too slow. I don't like, I did a lot of freelancing work at some point in Nigeria, and it was challenging getting remittance from abroad. You've done the work, they've paid you, let's say in Fiverr, Upwork, freelancer.com, and gotten the money. Then we had to go through Pioneer, then transfer the money to someone who will give you a terrible exchange rate just to get the money to you. Like, why can't you have a payment solution that pays us directly into our bank account? Like, that's one idea that I had then, like, I am still working on. I gave him an example of paying the service fee also, like, then paying the service fee was challenging. Like, I started the app. Right now, the guys the guy that was working on it just disappeared. That's the problem. The developers, they just disappeared during COVID. I don't know what happened to them. Like, they just stopped responding and everything. So the app is supposed to help you pay the service fee. Service fee is supposed to be easy, but I had to go through someone to help me pay back then. So what about a solution that just allows you to use your Nigerian card? Even though there was think there was a limit on Nigerian cards back then, how much you could pay in dollars. So so I was sharing those ideas with him. So it felt like, okay, and I said, okay, I'll in the business schools, I'm going to learn these, building solutions, scaling them, like using the network that I build in the business school. Like, let's say tomorrow I want to expand to Japan, for example. I have a classmate that came from Japan that I could just easily talk to. Like, so I gave all those personal context because he was interested and he let me talk. So I gave those details. So, but otherwise, I didn't mention. I was just saying the project I'm working on, like project about. I was like, okay, what's that project? Let me hear it. So, I gave the details. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks for sharing your story, Ahmed. I think we've covered quite a good number of questions. That most.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going with one thing that sorry to cut in there, if you're going with family, it might also come up that why are they following you, and why, where would they live also. So you need to be prepared to answer those questions. Like, it could be, as for me, it was simple as the MBA program is rigorous. That's clear. Even from the admission team, they've told us that it's rigorous, and they've seen the pattern that people who are there with their family, their support system, are usually more successful than others. So initially, they will be here to support me, help me settle down, and they are coming back to get to their work. This is the work that they do in Nigeria. This is maybe if they go to school, this is the school they go to. They're coming back to continue, but they just help me settle down initially. Absolutely. And maybe visit once in a while. Yeah.
So again, back to, look at there's a systematic way or approach that you have used to answer that question, and that is where most people miss it. You just want to justify why your wife and all your 3 kids or 1 kid should follow you. You're not looking at ties. Why should your wife or your spouse leave their job, leave everything they are doing, and just follow you to go?
If not that you are running away.
It's not like you are going to get a job, like you are going to start a job, start a business. You are going to school, right? So it's not checking out. So you must always have a strategy, tell that story, and let it be clear that, see, I have a tie back home. My spouse is working in XYZ company. Is going to support me, to give me that extra moral support that I need, to transition because of that culture shock and everything. While I settle down and everything, she's going to come back to her business or come back to her work. She's not going to be off. We planned it such that she's going to be off for her leave period and all of that. Then she's coming back and all of that. During that period, this is what she's going to be doing. So telling that story is really very important, because there's a trend now. You see spouses like husband and wife go for interview and they just give it to the husband and they just ask the wife to go back.
Really? That's very common. I've heard it before, but not very common.
It's very common now. Why? Wow. Because I have 3, 4, 5, 6 people that I know with that trend. Then your spouse, it's now becomes like a trauma, right? So now trying to get a visa at all costs.
Well, I know someone too that's in the business school like that. Right?
So yeah. It's difficult to attribute it to a particular thing, to say, hey, this is what went wrong in your story or in your interview. But as much as possible, you want to make sure that you are establishing that tie, right? You are not just uprooting your spouse, the two of you. It's just following me because we have to be together. They'll say, okay, take your visa, let us stay back. Otherwise, the two of you should stay back. Doing you a favor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I have a friend back then in my school. He came 1 year after. That was while I was in my MBA program. He came for a PhD program. He just got married. 3 months into that marriage, they applied for the US interview. They gave it to him. Then they denied his wife, and he came very sad. He was so gloomy. He would be like, "What's going on?" You are here. You should be excited that you are here. You have a PhD program, fully funded. You have stipend. You have grant. Was like, bro, my wife was denied. She didn't have any plan of staying back in Nigeria. That's another thing. Because you should have that plan. What happens if things don't work out?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing that people don't understand. Sometimes, to your point, you mentioned something that I really that don't sound desperate, right? If this does not work out, this is my plan, right? I have my job, I have my business. Should things not work out, I'll just do this, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes they want to see that level of confidence, you are really not desperate, hey, this one, this is my last shot.
Yeah, exactly.
I must get it,
It shows that I came with the expectation that I might get denied.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's already in my mind, I've not paid for all this, because what if I don't get approval? So Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, thanks. I do hope viewers have really benefited. I hope you've learned one or two things. One thing I wanted to talk about again, like on a very mild note, like how do you close your interview? Like you are done. There's that part that the counselor is just trying to. He or she has not given you the final decision. Like, do you need to do anything at
I
that
mean, there's
point?
nothing you can do, right?
I
So,
mean, I've
I
seen
mean,
weird things.
I've even heard people before, like I've heard that, I mean, like this is not necessarily true, that they probably already made up their mind based on the information you provided. They're just asking you questions around things that are not very clear. They want more context on to see whether they can change their mind. I mean, that's what some people have said. Like that's a theory out there, but I don't know whether that is true. So I don't think you are doing yourself a world of good. Like I saw people like getting really agitated. They're asking like, no, tell me why. Like this. They're trying to justify. You're just making the situation worse. Just take the decision and go. They're not going to change their decision on the spot. Whether like, so just be calm, and they ask you the question, answer follow-up questions, answer their follow-up questions, and hope for the best. There's really no, if there's anything I can say like as a parting shot is, you don't need to lie, right? Your intention should be, whatever strategy you are coming up with has to be like, you want to go back to your country, to go and give back to your country and everything. And these guys recognize that plans do change. The United States is it's just an interesting place, right? That you'd want to be. But they still want to make sure that even, I mean, that's me just speculating here. Like, even if this guy does not return, this guy will be an asset to our country rather than a nuisance, right? So whatever story you are telling, like, because there's some of us that actually, I was never a fan of traveling out of Nigeria, living abroad. There were times, like, I've had several opportunities that in the past that I'll just overlook, like, but when I did, even up to now, I still have plan that ties back to Nigeria, that I still have to do this in Nigeria, I still have to do that. But if it so happens that I don't go back, it won't be because I made up my mind that, oh, I'm immigrating, that's it for me, never going back to Nigeria. No, it won't be that, right? So it might now take me 5 years after graduation to go back, or maybe 10 years to go back. Plan is I'm going back to Nigeria.
Yeah, cool. I think it's a convenient place to call it a show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know people will have a lot of questions, so they can just put it in the comment section. We are very responsive. If you drop a question, I'm going to respond straight away. Drop the comment below if you have a question about visa interviews.
And also, don't forget to subscribe, like, then share with your friends or anyone that you know attempting to go for a US visa interview. I know this is going to be very useful for them. So see you next time for another interesting topic. Bye for now.